And our next phase is to start digging out to the depths we need to put our foundations.
Flatten this gravel out. There's a pre-existing concrete pathway that we just clear out the debris as we go. There's a lot of concrete buried amongst the roots. So we're just going to start on the ditch. And there's no reinforcement to crack the concrete. Double check with our string line.
Lay your head upon my shoulder. Shut off your thoughts and clear your mind.
These projects have many stages, many layers to them, and our first part of this project is excavating space for our construction. We've done the first preliminary clearing of this site along here. And our next phase is to start digging out to the depths we need to put our foundations. And then we'll be ready for forming up our concrete foundation for this wall and this ramp system.
Part of preparing for our concrete foundations is having a gravel bed underneath the concrete. In this particular job site, there's a lot of pre-existing gravel that we're going to make use of. So we're just going to spread and flatten this gravel out so it's ready for our concrete later. I'm just working to a rough height of where I want this gravel to get to, so it creates an appropriate bedding for our concrete. There's a pre-existing concrete pathway that leads to this old shed. It's right in the way of our foundations, so we had to remove it using my diamond saw and my small jackhammer. We just needed to cut a trench through it big enough for us to pour our foundations over the top. This large grinder is a really powerful tool, especially with the diamond bit. You want to be really careful. Always make sure you've got a good center of gravity in reference to your tool so you can keep control of it.
Can't trust the feel unless you see.
The idea here is to just cut a trench through this concrete. We don't need to remove all of it.
Can you tell me if that will do?
After completing our concrete cuts, we chip out chunks of concrete with our wrecking bar. We continue the process with our small jackhammer. We take our time with this process and continue to keep our body in a good position to make the most out of our tool without hurting ourselves. We just clear out the debris as we go.
I'm lonely. I'm not lonely when I'm with you.
So this morning we're going to excavate this piece behind me. This section of the wall goes right behind this tree, and so we need to clear all this dirt and some tree roots. This is also where the wall ties into the deck height.
Now the end would know it's coming near. We left our lives the way we want, without fear. You told me all the time I'd have no chance. I'd say I wouldn't have if you weren't there.
After digging down deep enough and excavating enough soil, we start to come across some of the tree roots we're going to have to remove with our reciprocating saw, like we did on the previous stumps.
Sometimes I feel lonely in my head, and I want to go over there instead.
After chopping out all the roots we've exposed, we continue to dig out more dirt with our small mattock to get down to the deeper roots.
Never give up the way we feel.
Some people use chainsaws for this kind of work, but I prefer using the reciprocating saw because the blade doesn't get clogged up with dirt.
I'm not lonely when I'm with you.
Trying to dig it down to the depths we're going to put the foundation. Just take our time, keep cutting the roots out. There's a lot of concrete buried amongst the roots. Just keep excavating it.
Started past my time and felt sorry. Can't trust the feel unless you see how much I will and won't do for you. Can you tell me if that will do? But won't then you tell me, then I start again.
This particular part of the garden had old fence posts that were buried and rotting in the ground, which we had to remove. These aren't easy to get out.
I'm lonely. I'm lonely. I'm not lonely when I'm with you.
Using our string line and level, we continue to double check to make sure we're on target for digging this trench in the right place. Just keep exposing them and cutting them out. Eventually it's all gone. So this excavation is basically complete. Got a nice flat surface cut low enough for gravel on a concrete foundation, and a wall's going to go up here. With this end of our excavation complete, we can continue on the other side, where we have to remove more gravel and dirt for our wall foundation. Here I'm using one of our longer timbers to set a line for the trench that we're going to excavate through this gravel and dirt.
We lived our lives the way we want, without fear. You told me all the time I'd have no chance. I'd say I wouldn't have if you weren't there.
So we're just going to start on the ditch that goes this way for the wall foundation.
The most of it, so we'll make the rest the most of all we can.
Yeah, the first thing we're going to do this morning is break this concrete slab off best we can. It's right in the way of our foundation for our wall.
Started past my time and felt sorry.
This concrete pathway is the last major obstacle in the way of our trench. After we get this out of the way, we'll check our measurements and we should be good to start construction.
Yeah, by using a combination of the wrecking bar and the sledgehammer, we should be able to break through this pretty easily.
The trick with breaking up concrete with the sledgehammer is to let the weight of the hammer do all the work. Lift it as high as you can above your head and let gravity bring it down to crack the concrete.
If it won't, then you tell me, then I start again.
Set yourself a sustainable rhythm and just keep cracking the concrete. After you've got a certain amount of pieces cracked, use the wrecking bar to pull them apart and then continue your process.
I'm lonely. I'm not lonely.
Even hard and laborious tasks like smashing this concrete can be rewarding if you keep the right attitude and keep focused on what you're doing.
And there's no reinforcement bar in the concrete. It can be quite easy to break up with a sledgehammer and wrecking bar.
Now the end will know it's coming. We left our lives the way we want, without fear. They told me all the time.
So that's out of our way. We're going to reuse this concrete later for filling in some of our voids.
I'd say I wouldn't have if you weren't there. But I didn't, we didn't make the most of it.
Now that we've finished excavating all the concrete, dirt and tree roots out of this area, we're going to double check with our string line and tape measure to make sure we've got the right height for setting our foundations. Coming up on our next episode, we set our foundation forms.
Yesterday we completed the formwork for our foundation for this wall and ramp system. Let's take a look at what I did. We're about to put the gravel in, then the steel reinforcement, and eventually the concrete.
Thanks for joining me this week on my YouTube channel. Check the link below, and while you're at it, hit the subscribe button or make a comment so I can help you with your future construction solutions. And don't forget to follow our channel for more ideas and how-to tips for home and garden projects.